In a galaxy where humans are but a flickering candle in the vast expanse of space, one woman dared to dream of a brighter future. Zara, born into a universe that had long since forgotten the word hope, stood on the precipice of destiny, unaware that her choices would soon ignite a fire that would consume the stars themselves. For centuries, humanity had been little more than cosmic playthings, subjugated by the whims of the myriad alien species that dominated known space. From the insectoid Zaxani to the gaseous Velox, each race sought to mold the universe in their image, and humans were but a forgotten footnote in their grand designs. Yet Zara refused to accept this fate. As she gazed upon the towering spires of the Zaxani hive cities, their chitinous walls glistening in the starlight, she felt a spark of defiance kindling within her heart. The alien overlords might have stripped humanity of its dignity, but they could never extinguish the embers of hope that smoldered within. Little did Zara know that her world was about to be turned upside down. Deep within the bowels of the hive city, a secret lay hidden, a truth so profound that it threatened to unravel the very fabric of galactic society. And as fate would have it, Zara would be the one to stumble upon this revelation. As she picked her way through the twisting corridors of the alien fortress, Zara's heart pounded in her chest. Each step brought her closer to the unknown, to a destiny that had been whispered of in hushed tones by the human resistance. And when at last she reached the chamber at the heart of the hive, what she found there would change everything. For in that moment, Zara discovered a secret that had been buried for eons, a secret that could shatter the chains of human oppression and set the galaxy ablaze with the fires of revolution. The question was, would she have the courage to seize this chance at freedom, or would she succumb to the weight of an uncaring universe? The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and Zara's next move would decide the course of history. Little did she know that the greatest battle of her life was about to begin, and the outcome would echo through the ages like the birth cry of a new era. Zara's mind reeled as she tried to process the implications of her discovery. The holographic projections flickered before her eyes, revealing a truth that had been hidden for centuries. The Zaxani, the very beings who had enslaved humanity, were not the masters of the galaxy they appeared to be. They were merely pawns, puppets dancing on the strings of an even greater power. As she delved deeper into the archives, Zara uncovered a tapestry of lies and deceit that spanned the stars. The true rulers of the galaxy were a shadowy cabal known as the Orcs, a race of ethereal beings who had manipulated the course of history from the depths of the void. They had orchestrated the rise and fall of countless civilizations, sowing chaos and discord to maintain their iron grip on the cosmos. Zara's heart ached as she realized the true extent of humanity's suffering. For generations, her people had been caught in the crossfire of a cosmic game, their lives sacrificed on the altar of alien ambition. The weight of this knowledge threatened to crush her spirit, but Zara refused to surrender to despair. As she emerged from the chamber, Zara knew that she could not keep this revelation to herself. The human resistance needed to know the truth, to understand the true nature of the enemy they faced. But even as she made her way through the labyrinthine corridors of the hive city, Zara could feel the eyes of the Zaxani upon her, their suspicions aroused by her unauthorized presence. Time was running out, and Zara faced an impossible choice. She could attempt to escape the city and risk capture by the alien authorities, or she could try to make contact with the resistance from within the heart of enemy territory. Either way, the path ahead was fraught with peril, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. As she weighed her options, Zara's thoughts turned to her family, to the loved ones she had left behind when she joined the resistance. They were counting on her, just as all of humanity was counting on the success of their desperate struggle for freedom. And in that moment, Zara made a decision that would change the course of history. With a deep breath and a whispered prayer to whatever gods might be listening, Zara stepped out into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. She knew that the road would be long and hard, that she would be tested in ways she could never imagine. But she also knew that she carried the hopes and dreams of her people with her, and that knowledge gave her the strength to carry on. And so, as the story of Zara's quest began to unfold, the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what wonders and horrors the future might hold. For in the crucible of conflict, heroes are forged and legends are born, and Zara's tale was only just beginning. Zara's decision to reach out to the human resistance from within the Zaxani hive city was a gamble, but it was one she knew she had to take. With the knowledge of the Orcs' true nature burning in her mind, she couldn't afford to waste any time. Every moment she delayed was another moment that her people suffered under the yoke of alien oppression. Using a stolen Zaxani communication device, Zara managed to send a coded message to her contacts in the resistance. She knew that the aliens would be monitoring all transmissions, so she had to be careful not to reveal too much. But even a hint of the truth could be enough to galvanize the rebels and give them new hope in their fight for freedom. As Zara waited for a response, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The Zaxani were everywhere in the hive city, their compound eyes always searching for any sign of dissent. She had to be careful not to draw attention to herself, to blend in with the downtrodden human masses that toiled in the alien factories and mines. But even as she tried to keep a low profile, Zara couldn't ignore the suffering she saw all around her. The Zaxani treated humans like little more than livestock, working them to the bone and discarding them when they were no longer useful. The sight of her people being brutalized and degraded filled Zara with a righteous fury, and she knew that she would do whatever it took to bring an end to this injustice. As the days turned into weeks, Zara began to fear that her message had been intercepted by the aliens. She had heard nothing from the resistance, and the Zaxani seemed to be watching her more closely than ever. She knew that if she was discovered, she would face a fate worse than death, a lifetime of torture and experimentation at the hands of the alien scientists. Just when all seemed lost, however, Zara received a response from the resistance. They had heard her call for help, and they were ready to act. In a daring raid on the hive city, a team of human rebels managed to infiltrate the alien defenses and extract Zara from her precarious position. As she was whisked away to a secret rebel base, Zara felt a surge of hope for the first time in years. She had made contact with her people, and she had the knowledge that could change the course of the war. But even as she celebrated this small victory, she knew that the real fight was just beginning. The Orcs were still out there, pulling the strings of the galactic conflict from the shadows. If humanity was ever going to be truly free, they would have to find a way to strike at the heart of the enemy's power. And Zara knew that she would be at the forefront of that fight, leading her people to a brighter future, no matter the cost. As she looked out at the stars from the rebel base, Zara couldn't help but feel a sense of destiny calling to her. She had been chosen for this moment, for this fight. And she would not rest until the galaxy was free from the tyranny of the Orcs, once and for all. As Zara and the human resistance pored over the stolen Zaxani data, a chilling realization began to dawn on them. The Orcs' control over the galaxy was far more insidious than they had ever imagined. It wasn't just the Zaxani who were under their sway, countless other alien races were also mere puppets, dancing to the tune of their ethereal masters. But there was something else in the data, something that made Zara's blood run cold. The Orcs hadn't always been the shadowy puppet masters they were now. Once, eons ago, they had been mortal beings, not so different from humans or Zaxani. But through some dark and twisted science, they had transcended their physical forms and become something else entirely, something that hungered for power and control above all else. As Zara dug deeper into the history of the Orcs, she discovered a shocking truth. The Orcs had not always been the enemy of humanity, in fact, they had once been their greatest allies. In the distant past, when humans first ventured out into the stars, the Orcs had been there to guide them, to help them navigate the dangers of the cosmos. But something had changed. The Orcs had become corrupted by their own power, twisted by their desire for dominion over all life. They had turned on their former allies, using their advanced technology to enslave and subjugate the very people they had once sworn to protect. The implications of this revelation were staggering. If the Orcs had once been allies of humanity, then there might still be a chance to reason with them, to find a way to break their hold over the galaxy. But Zara knew that it would not be easy. The Orcs were ancient and powerful, and they would not relinquish their control without a fight. As she struggled to come to terms with this new knowledge, Zara knew that she faced a momentous decision. She could try to use this information to negotiate with the Orcs, to find a peaceful solution to the conflict that had ravaged the galaxy for so long. Or she could use it as a weapon, a means to rally the human resistance and strike at the heart of the enemy's power. But even as Zara grappled with this choice, events were spiraling out of control. The Zaxani had discovered the theft of their data, and they were determined to hunt down the rebels responsible. Zara and her comrades were forced to go on the run, always one step ahead of their alien pursuers. And all the while, the specter of the Orcs loomed over them, a malevolent presence that seemed to permeate every corner of the galaxy. Zara knew that she was running out of time. If she didn't act soon, the Orcs would tighten their grip on the cosmos, and all hope for humanity would be lost. As she looked out at the stars from the cramped confines of a rebel ship, Zara knew that the fate of her people rested on her shoulders. She had to find a way to break the cycle of oppression and violence, to forge a new path for humanity in a galaxy that seemed determined to destroy them. And she had to do it soon, before the Orcs snuffed out the last embers of hope forever. The weight of Zara's newfound knowledge hung heavy on her shoulders as she and the rebels fled through the stars. The revelation that the Orcs had once been allies of humanity had shaken her to the core, and she couldn't help but wonder if there was still a chance for peace. But as the days turned into weeks, and the Zaxani pursuers grew ever closer, Zara began to realize that the time for diplomacy had passed. The Orcs were too entrenched in their ways, too addicted to the power they wielded over the galaxy. They would never willingly relinquish their control, no matter how persuasive Zara might be. The only way to break their hold was through force, through a direct confrontation that would shake the very foundations of the cosmos. But even as Zara steeled herself for the fight to come, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing something. The Orcs were ancient and wise, and they had survived for eons by staying one step ahead of their enemies. If Zara was going to have any chance of defeating them, she would need to find a way to outmaneuver them, to strike at their weaknesses before they could strike at hers. As she pored over the stolen data, looking for any clue that might give her an edge, Zara stumbled upon a startling realization. The Orcs' power was not absolute, there were cracks in their armor, weaknesses that could be exploited. But to do so would require a sacrifice, a willingness to put everything on the line for the sake of the greater good. Zara knew what she had to do. She gathered her closest allies and revealed her plan, a daring gambit that would strike at the heart of the Orcs' power. It was a risky move, one that could easily backfire and doom the human resistance to oblivion. But Zara was convinced that it was their only hope, the only way to break the cycle of oppression and violence that had plagued the galaxy for so long. As she prepared to put her plan into motion, Zara couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. She was about to take on the most powerful beings in the universe, and the odds were stacked against her. But she also knew that she had no choice, the fate of humanity rested on her shoulders, and she would not let them down. With a heavy heart, Zara bid farewell to her comrades and set out on her mission. She knew that she might not survive, that she might be walking into a trap from which there was no escape. But she also knew that she was doing the right thing, that she was fighting for a cause that was greater than herself. As she disappeared into the void, Zara's thoughts turned to her people, to the billions of humans who were counting on her to succeed. She knew that she might never see them again, that she might be sacrificing everything for a future she would never live to see. But she also knew that it was a sacrifice worth making, a price worth paying for the sake of freedom and justice. And so, as the stars watched in silent witness, Zara embarked on the most important mission of her life, a mission that would decide the fate of the galaxy, and the future of the human race. As news of Zara's daring mission spread through the rebel ranks, a sense of hope began to grow among the battered and weary fighters. For so long, they had been forced to live in the shadows, scraping out a meager existence on the fringes of galactic society. But now, with Zara at the helm, they dared to dream of a better future, a future where humans would no longer be the pawns of alien powers, but masters of their own destiny. Zara knew that she had to capitalize on this newfound sense of unity and purpose. She had already set in motion a plan to strike at the heart of the Orcs' power, but she knew that it would take more than a single daring gambit to bring down such a formidable foe. She needed to rally her people, to remind them of the strength and resilience that had carried them through countless generations of oppression and hardship. And so, even as she raced towards her fateful confrontation with the Orcs, Zara began to speak to her fellow rebels, to share with them the knowledge and insight she had gained through her long struggle. She spoke of the true history of the galaxy, of the great civilizations that had risen and fallen in the eons before humanity's ascent. She spoke of the Orcs, of their once noble origins and their tragic fall from grace. And she spoke of the future, a future where humans would take their rightful place among the stars, not as conquerors or tyrants, but as builders and explorers, seekers of knowledge and champions of justice. As Zara's words spread through the rebel ranks, a great wave of energy and purpose began to build. Humans from all walks of life, from the downtrodden factory workers to the battle-hardened warriors, began to see themselves in a new light, not as victims or pawns, but as the inheritors of a great legacy, the bearers of a sacred trust. And as the rebel fleet gathered for the final push, Zara knew that she had done all she could to prepare her people for the trials ahead. She had given them hope, purpose, and a sense of their own worth, and now, it was time to put those ideals to the test. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The rebel ships, armed with the knowledge and technology that Zara had gleaned from the Orcs' own databases, struck at the heart of the enemy's power with a ferocity and precision that caught the ancient beings off guard. The Orcs fought back with all the might of their ancient technology, but they were no match for the determination and courage of the human rebels. And yet, even as the battle raged, Zara knew that victory was far from certain. The Orcs were still immensely powerful, and they would not go down without a fight. As the rebel ships took heavy damage and the casualties began to mount, Zara couldn't help but fear that she had led her people to their doom. But then, at the darkest hour, when all seemed lost, something miraculous happened. The Orcs, confronted with the full might of human unity and purpose, began to waver. For the first time in eons, they knew fear, not the fear of death or defeat, but the fear of losing their grip on the galaxy they had ruled for so long. And in that moment, as the rebel ships pressed their advantage and the Orcs' power began to crumble, Zara knew that victory was within reach. The future she had dreamed of, the future where humans would be free to chart their own course among the stars, was finally within her grasp. As the dust settled and the rebel ships emerged victorious from the fray, Zara couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder at what they had accomplished. Against all odds, they had struck a blow against the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and in doing so, they had changed the course of history forever. But even as the rebels celebrated their triumph, Zara knew that their work was far from over. The Orcs had been defeated, but their legacy of oppression and control would not be easily erased. It would take time, effort, and sacrifice to build a new galactic order, one founded on the principles of freedom, equality, and justice. In the days and weeks that followed, Zara worked tirelessly to lay the foundations of this new order. She reached out to the leaders of other alien races, many of whom had also suffered under the Orcs' rule, and forged new alliances based on mutual respect and cooperation. She worked to dismantle the vast network of control and surveillance that the Orcs had built up over the eons, and to replace it with a system of transparency and accountability. And through it all, she never lost sight of the most important lesson that her long struggle had taught her, that the greatest strength of the human spirit lies not in conquest or domination, but in unity and compassion. She knew that if humanity was to have any hope of thriving in the new galactic order, they would need to embrace these values, to see themselves not as a species apart, but as part of a greater whole. As the years passed and the new order took shape, Zara could see the fruits of her labors beginning to blossom. Humans and aliens alike were working together to rebuild the shattered worlds left behind by the Orcs' reign, to create a new civilization founded on the principles of peace, progress, and mutual understanding. And though there were still challenges to be faced and obstacles to be overcome, Zara knew that they would face them together, as a united galaxy. For in the end, the greatest strength of all sentient beings lies not in their differences, but in their common hopes, dreams, and aspirations. As she looked out at the stars, Zara could see the future unfolding before her, a future where the legacy of the Orcs would be remembered not as a curse, but as a lesson, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of standing together in the face of adversity. And she knew that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, the human spirit would endure, as it always had, not just surviving, but thriving in the face of the unknown. For in the end, that was the true measure of their worth, not the strength of their ships or the power of their weapons, but the courage, compassion, and resilience that had carried them through the darkest of times and into the light of a new dawn. As the rebel ships set out once more into the vast expanse of space, Zara knew that they carried with them not just the hopes of humanity, but the hopes of all those who had been oppressed and marginalized by the Orcs' reign. And with that knowledge, she knew that no matter what the future might hold, they would face it together, as a united galaxy, stronger and more resilient than ever before.